it's Hans Johnson.
Nice
Remember
to
me?
meet you.
Oh.
We've been chatting a lot on the
Yes,
phone.
a lot, and the email. You've been
Great.
great. So I need to sign in because I'm ready to take my test. I think I'm
Great.
ready.
Okay, you are going to be room 2
Okay.
at 9:30. So there's your name. All I need is an initial.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will initial that. Okay.
And then the exam rooms are out the door to the left.
Okay, so go out over there. Okay.
And if you need to use the restroom, it's to the right, down past the Bank of
All
Illinois.
right. That's important.
That it is. And I'm going to have you fill out your affidavit. You get 1 credit for taking each exam. So you're
Okay.
going to put conference,
All right.
and then certified free skate, and then fill in the rest, 1 credit, and then you're going to put it down in the blue bin.
Okay.
And we'll take that back to the PSA office for
And
you.
then do I wait here or do I go to the room?
What you're going to do is you're here about 45 minutes early.
Yes.
So I would just you can go down and sit at the table, kind of collect your thoughts, or you can go down into the rating room area. There's a nice little skylight there, and you can kind of just sit and relax.
Okay.
And then you'll see lots of commotion when the ratings change. And then I would go sit on the chair that's right outside your room, which is room number 2.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay,
I'll
good
fill
luck.
this out and put it over here.
Good. Good luck, Hans.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Only until Sunday.
Okay.
So
We have Hans Johnson here, Los Angeles, California, work experience from 2010 to present, and Burbank, Chelsea Piers, national presenter, senior moves in the field, Bachelor of Arts, 900 plus hours coaching for 3 years consecutive, which fulfills for the certified. Alrighty. And when we do the exam, we're gonna move in a clockwise. So we'll start with Thomas and then go around. And he's, okay. So I'm ready to bring him in after we do the microphone.
This is a certified freestyle exam in Chicago, Illinois on May 21st, 2013 for Hans Johnson with moderator
Denise Williamson, Debbie Lane.
and Thomas Amon.
Okay, yes. And what I'll do is when he comes in the room, I'll pour his water then so that he knows that it's fresh. Okay, so I'll go get the candidate. Hans. Hello, Hans. I'm Denise Williamson. I'm your monitor.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Axel Chang, and I'm the trial examiner.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm Camel Rodigal, and I'm one of your trial examiners.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I am Thomas Amon.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
One of your examiners. Debbie Lane.
Hi, it's nice to meet you too.
All right, I'm going to pour you some fresh water. Please have a seat.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so here's some fresh water. You have paper and pencil here, so during the course of the exam, we may ask you to draw something, and then at the conclusion of the exam, we will ask you to sign it and put into your folder. The exam is being recorded for your, purposes of protection. Thank you. And since this is your certified exam, freestyle exam, you've gone through this process before, so we're going to move in a clockwise direction with questions. Do you have any questions before we get started?
No, I'm just a little nervous, but I'll be
Okay.
fine.
And is it all right that the trial examiners are in the room? They're not going to be asking you any questions. They're actually being more tested themselves.
Okay.
So they won't ask any questions, and you won't hear any comments from them.
I'll just ignore them.
Just ignore them. All right, well, if you don't have any questions, we'll get started. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hans, can you tell me what types of boots and blades do you recommend at this level? And let's say we're looking at an intermediate competitive lady.
For intermediate, I like a pretty strong boot, so I would probably go with a Rydell boot. I think they have dependable boots that the skaters can rely on, and I would probably prefer a pattern 99 blade at this level.
Could I, just to follow up to my own question, could I ask maybe why you would recommend a pattern 99 blade over maybe a Phantom or a Gold Star?
I just think the Phantom, I like the curvature of the blade. I think it's perfect for the type of jumps they're doing right at that point in their career. I think it's great for spins, and it's kind of an all-purpose blade that allows them to do not only just single jumps but double jumps, and then if we're working on a double axle, I think it's a good blade to start with that as well.
The pattern. You prefer the pattern 99 or the Phantom?
Oh, I prefer the pattern 99.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. It's all right.
Should I go on to rules and standards then, Denise?
Sure.
Okay. I want to ask you the question about the juvenile freestyle test and what's required in the juvenile freestyle test.
Okay. So for the juvenile freestyle test, the axle type jump, or the axle jump, is the first one. You have to do 3 single jumps, 1 jump combination with no 3-turn or change of foot in between, and 2 spins, either a layback for a lady or a camel spin for a male, and a combination spin with 1 change of foot.
And is there any steps that you have to
Yes,
do?
a step sequence consisting of full ice from one end to the other.
Could it be different dimensions? Can it be straight line, or can it be?
It could
do you
be
have
circular, it
options?
could be serpentine, it could be straight. It's up to your choice as a coach.
Okay. And then there's one other thing that's actually a half jump. You have a
Oh,
choice.
yes, I forgot
of-
that. You have a choice of either a split jump, a stag jump, a half loop, or a split falling leap to add in there as well.
Thank you.
And just a quick follow-up. What is the time duration on this test for the program
For intermediate?
for juvenile?
For juvenile, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We're confused. It is 2 minutes, 10 seconds, plus or minus 10 seconds.
Close. 2 minutes and 15.
Okay.
10
Well, that's
second
close.
leeway. Yeah, you were close. It's okay. It's not a deal breaker. Okay. Axel, we're going to move on to jumps. How do you teach a double loop and name 3 common errors?
Well, I always start with a single loop first, and I go back to as long as I feel that the axis is straight, the posture is like there's enough hold on the launch. I have them do single loop back scratch spin. And then I take them on the harness first so they get the experience of the double while maintaining the axis and keeping it pretty safe, and really trying to be very still while they start to work on the press of the curve of that edge to allow the pre-rotation and what I call the flag, which is the launch for the jump. And some of the mistakes I typically see is that they overdo the right side, so they just go right into that right side. They don't really allow the pivot and the launch. So I actually try to talk about balance and having a balance lift. So I will have them work on trying to actually press down on the left shoulder, the free shoulder, while still engaging the right hip. I'm turning, counterclockwise as most people do. And I just have them press down that left shoulder to get the experience of being that flatness as they pivot and holding their position across the curve until they get to the flat of the jump.
If you want to stand up and demonstrate that.
Oh, I would love to actually. Yeah, so typically I find that we think so much in terms of getting over that right side that immediately they try to do it too early, too quickly, and as they start to launch, they press, go right inside, and it doesn't go anywhere. So I try to have them just hold the elbow out just enough and keeping the position of the L while they're pressing. And right here I have them just drop that left shoulder down. Still engage that right side. The axis is still, the longitudinal axis is still in place. And just kind of just pivot a little bit and just let that knee go from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock and lift. And just really work in that motion first. And then I find that it does allow them to have that certain, the balance lift on the launch of the jump. Another issue is that typically I find that they will actually over-rotate in the upper body, which means that it's actually the opposite problem. So I will often have them do, trying to map out how much lifting motion is appropriate. It should only go to about here, and I literally take a water bottle, I take one in each hand, and I have them shake them vigorously, only about that much, so they know how much tension there is, And that's really the limit of how much lift they should have in the upper body. So it kind of actually helps control how much lift they have on the launch of the jump, and they don't overthrow the left side. And the third problem I find that I always see is that they typically, at this level, they have a hard time really getting the feet to cross properly. So we just work on the back scratch spin position, single back scratch spin, and work on trying to get the left pinky toe to the right second toe, and just try to just find that moment where it connects, and work at the wall.
Do you mind drawing for me in detail the takeoff of the double loop?
Oh, absolutely. So there are different patterns that that people adopt. I like using a C curve on the ice. So they're starting from back here, and I have them do their entry, the preparation is back here to get into power the curve, and they're setting up towards this side. Once they get to here, they do the mohawk and the set onto the right back outside edge, and from the edge, the curve starts to diminish, right until about that moment where they have the flag, the launch, the rotation is in the air here, and then the landing should be just on that side of it for the exit. All of it maintain pretty consistent curve throughout.
Okay, and so in this moment right here,
The flag.
so they are literally, are they taking off forward or backward?
Forward at that
Okay.
point. I teach them that they do have a forward. Though the draws are backward, by the time they actually launch, that I find that in all the jumps, that there is always going to be some pre-rotation. So I do address it without trying to have any additional movement. So the way I explain it to the kids is that if there's a clock, I may take the clock and spin it, but the arms on the clock don't move. So I want very, very still, even though this may be turning a quarter of a revolution on the set, and then another quarter of a revolution basically on the actual launch of the jump. And then I like to have it on the double or the triple to basically attain position with the trapping of the feet within 3/4 from launch of the jump.
Could I do a follow-up on
Yes.
that? Could you tell me about the knee action on the skating knee? When you use it to lift and.
Yes. Basically, I actually have, it depends on different jumps, alternating axis jumps, there's a very clear left and right knee action, or right-left knee action, excuse me, on axles, sows, and toes. But I do feel that on the loop, flip, and lats, especially with the loop, because you're coming out of a compression on that right side, that I do use a little bit of the left knee action to help to accent the coming out of the right knee, and the loading mechanism of hip, knee, ankle, knee, hip to press back out. And I sometimes will use a little bit more of the left knee action. If they're not quite getting the full press through on the flag, that'll actually help them use a little bit of the scoop of the left leg, keeping very tight to the body, and kind of demonstrate from here basically is that once they kind of get that moment and they're coming through right here, if they're still kind of not really quite getting to the fullness of that moment, just really letting them kind of like pick up and feel the motion through the foot, so that they feel the engagement of a loading mechanism from the press down to the press back up through the whole entire right side.
Okay, so that's great. And so you're actually lifting at which quarter? You said you do about a quarter, and then
Yes.
another quarter. So when do you actually push off from that right knee?
At the 1/2 mark, living off the it starts, the compression happens on the set. The drag happens through the quarter, and then from that quarter to the half is where they really will begin the full launch and off the toe pick.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Can I ask one more follow-up
Yeah.
to that? Can you talk to us about what your left leg is doing from the beginning of the preparation of the jump all the way through the jump? Like, where do you want that left foot placed?
Well, I start off with them side by side. As he starts to press, and it starts to get the diminishing curve, the right foot actually does a little bit of a swizzle under, so that it starts to get what I call the trap on the moment of, as it presses, it starts to go, the length starts to curve a little bit more, and my left foot actually starts to, as you watch the pivoting action happen, it actually naturally falls into what would be a cross foot or a trapping motion. And from that moment, that's where I actually feel the left foot has to pick up. Just like on the lats, I teach that there's a little bit, I learned something from my fellow colleagues. Diane Miller has a wonderful exercise on lats where she uses the toe scraping motion, so that you go from the outside edge, and the pre-rotation is addressed, the release of it is addressed to the toe scrape. So I feel that I definitely fall in the same lines, but on the loop is a little bit different because you don't have the outside edge from that angle, we have it from the right outside edge. But it's the same principle. So my left side, as it pivots, will start to actually engage into that crossfoot motion, and then I pick up the knee. So I do have a little bit, I don't turn it out, because I think that could lead to all kinds of other issues. I don't really discuss it that way. But I talk about kind of the pogo stick, or doing that left knee action.
So when you have your athlete doing a double loop, do you prefer two outside edges or outside inside on the takeoff?
Well, by the time, it starts off from the outside to inside, but by the time they take off, then the edge starts to kind of actually, once the right foot starts to cut under and it makes a diminishing curve, the left foot starts to actually flatten out and does start to change edge. So it starts to actually, when it gets the flag, it does flip over because literally it's a turning motion off that, as well. So the right foot makes a flag, the left foot turns over. So in essence, you are taking off the two outside edges by the launching moment. But that's kind of what I was thinking of doing.
Yeah.
And does that make sense, though?
Yes, it
Yeah, I
does.
think
Yeah.
Can you please tell us how you teach the technique of changing feet in a combination spin? And let's assume you are changing feet from a back entrance. So for example, you're doing a back camel grab, and then you're making that transition from the right foot, assuming they are spinning on the right foot, to the left foot.
Okay, so from that moment, it depends on what they're stepping into, but I do have them always on that position that when they're doing a back spinning motion, to do a 3-turn into a forward inside edge. And then I have them do what would be called, sometimes called big bird number 4, that once they switch over to here, that the knee will start to come over almost like the shape of a number 4. And as they start to engage, it'll be a sort of a bower, as if I'm doing a forward outside bower on my left foot from my direction to engage the body. If I'm going to do from a back camel catch to a forward camel, then I'll have them switch the edge, step forward here and through the bower position, and then try from here to release the right shoulder just a little bit down so they have enough flatness to get that position to come back around into the original center that I started from the first spin. But I definitely I teach it with a 3-turn to a forward inside edge, a bower step down, and then recentering from the opposite shoulder to come back across so it doesn't travel too much off axis.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? When you do that back 3-turn, so they're doing, you have them spinning on the back outer edge, they're doing a back outside 3-turn, so then when they do the 3-turn, they're on a forward inside edge.
Right.
So how long do you allow or tolerate that forward inside edge to be before
Okay, so again, it depends on the structure of the spin. If I'm doing something from like a back camel, it's a combination spin, and they can come up to an upright, you can actually hold it for quite some time. If it's going from a camel to a camel, you really don't have that much time to do it. So it's just part of the transition. But I find that rather than trying to go from the back outside edge and directly stepping into the transferring foot, it's too big of a transfer, and the center gets really separated up to very distinct centers. So I find that it's much easier going from like a back camel, back sit, something upright position, where they can actually hold it, and that's actually it's probably the easiest one. And even on that, I sometimes can even get them on the step if they're stepping from upright to like a broken leg. They can actually step to a back inside edge, so I don't have to deal with the 3-turn of resumming the second part of the spin. So it just depends on what the structure of the spin is, but I agree with you, if it's a camel change camel, you can't be getting upright for that many revolutions. It's not. It would break the spin, and it would actually cause it to be called a different type of spin. It would be a combination spin at that point, if they're starting to actually change position.
Well, my concern is just the length of the edge, because if we have an exit edge and we have an entry edge.
Right. But I bury the change of edge within the axis of the spin, so you don't actually even see. There's no difference if it's going from here and it's like this, and then they switch the edge, it's still within the center, so it actually, you really can't even see where it's an exit edge or an entry edge when it's when it stays within the same spin.
Right.
It is a little bit fudge factor, I have to admit, but yes. But I find that it is most effective, and especially when the kids are coming from like a low sit position, that I have them, it seems to help a lot.
And types of turns in the step sequences. So I'd like to have you draw some turns for me, please.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, now for this level from juvenile and intermediate, I know that they're not a leveled step sequence, it's a choreo step sequence. However, I've always been a big proponent of trying to have good solid turns, and I do put in clusters as just, even though it's not required, but just to demonstrate some technical skill for my juveniles, intermediates, and the choreo steps as well. But yes, I draw,
Can you draw a rocker?
Rocker, yes. Like a,
Do you mind drawing it on that?
yeah, I can draw it on a
Blank.
clean sheet of paper, absolutely.
And draw as big as you can.
Yes. So a rocker, if I'm doing like a right forward inside rocker, it looks something like this. I could connect that with a right back inside counter, to maybe some twizzles, to an exit edge. You know, that's a cluster that I typically like to use a lot. But there's a rocker in here, there's a counter here, and the unchecked turns, the twizzle are demonstrated like that on the exit.
And you find at the juvenile level that your athletes can
Achieve.
execute those clean turns?
Well, I'll tell you what, they may not fully execute them to my satisfaction, but I figure I don't want to start them at novice, suddenly having to actually have them count. So even if they struggle, even if the turns are a little flat, it's a good space for discussion.
Sure.
And say, okay, then clearly then when you're warm up with these on both feet for part of your warm-up series. And I actually use a lot of clusters as part of my warm-ups for the kids with the turn technique.
And if you were to put a bracket in
Yes.
this type of series, would you tend to do a very edgy bracket or quick
Yes.
brackets? Or?
Well, the bracket, the quick ones don't really count for the the level step sequence. So I typically don't use that other than for cadence and for rhythm and doing something cute or matches the music. You know, kind of it's a bracket or rocker. It's just different things. But what I do like to do is actually have like a large, very distinct bracket because they're very hard to identify, and I think that they're lovely movement when done properly. So I'd be happy
which
to.
type of bracket would you tend to, like a forward out or back
Yeah,
in or what? I mean, what would you typically put in a step sequence for a juvenile?
Yeah, I actually have had some of my juveniles use a bracket cluster, a bracket counter bracket, which would look like a right forward outside. Well, I can draw a new piece of paper for you. So I'm doing a right forward outside bracket to a right back inside counter to a right forward inside bracket. Just need to have a bunny here on there if I want to. And exiting the edge of that way.
And you have both brackets at the top of the arc and then
Yes.
the counters on the
Long axis, exactly.
Right.
So, yeah, so it kills two birds with one stone. They get both brackets done, they get a cluster done, and hopefully they learn something in the process.
Very good.
Nice job, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. So they're going opposite directions.
Now, since you've done all those turns, and I don't care what type it is,
Uh-huh.
but could you draw a chalk top for us?
Yes, I
Any
can.
chalk.
Any chalk top?
Any chalk.
Oh, I would love to. I'm going back to my junior moves in the field. Chalk top. I know there are many different kinds, but basically it's the chalk dot is a transition from forward to backwards with change of edge. So if I'm doing like my right back outside edge that's a direction. Sorry, I was drawing that so you could see what direction I'm going in. Anyway, with the right back outside edge, just step to a left forward inside edge here. I keep drawing the arrows. I'm trying to tell you which
It's
direction
okay.
I'm going. But yes.
Okay. And do you put very many of those in your step sequence?
Yes, I do. I do. I tend to put in, I like having, some mixture of chassés and choctaws. I'm very big on choctaws, actually. I'm a different, swinging choctaws, just different, whatever the music calls for. Toe steps for sure. Back inside toe steps, forward outside toe steps, PK turns, any kind of toe step, because I think it just, it gives a lot of variety.
And do you find that you get a lot of high-low positions with using the types of turns that you do? I mean,
Yeah.
upper body
At
positions.
this
do you
level, I don't. So when I'm introducing these turns, especially something like this, in this moment here where it's a cluster, I don't expect them to give me any upper body or real personality. It's like, okay, this is a technical moment. Now we're going to break out into our dance sequence. And they do a little something that's really, kind of more performance-oriented and really kind of, typically, it'll be set kind of right in front of the judges. And then they do another step to generate power again to get some more speed and then more turns and things like that. So I think at this level, I find that the upper body movement comes in Maybe sometimes on certain steps, a chasse, they can do it, but the turns typically become a little bit more difficult unless they're doing a turn, like a back inside counter, into a spiral, into an actual maneuver, and then a bow, where they can really, get the feeling of that. But that's why I put it in there.
Good, thank you.
All right, and I think we are done. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna escort you out to the hallway again, and we're gonna go over our notes and have a discussion, and I'll bring you back in, okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Camel, what do you think?
I passed the exam.
Thank you. Hans?
I passed him as well.
Thank you. And you come?
Do you want me to go
No,
first?
yeah, I wouldn't, if you don't mind.
No, I really like to have lots of good color words. I like the part where he's, shaking the shaker to get
The water
feeling.
bottles?
Yeah, and I think even the word launch, because it gave them that it's sort of an action word
Mhm.
on it, and his cluster of turns were great. Spins, maybe the change was a little not sure what he was actually getting. It was hard to tell from here
Yeah.
what he was trying to do.
Mhm.
So probably I need to look at the diagram a little bit
Sorry, I
more,
should show you.
or ask for a little bit more clarification on that part on it. So, but otherwise, I thought he did a good job for certified. He certainly was specific in his understanding, and I thought that was good.
Well, problems was he was just very wordy, and sometimes I just wanted him to get right to the point because I felt like he knew exactly what he needed to say, but he just kept explaining it and explaining that, and then I felt like sometimes that's why you would do the follow-ups, because he would enter into a different realm. I thought his turns were great. I think they're a little advanced for this level, but he knows them, so I think that's fine. And I thought he seems very knowledgeable and knows his stuff.
Thomas, what did you think?
I passed the exam. I thought the exam was really good. I was a little concerned in the spins category with the transition from the right foot to the left foot, but I thought that you kind of nailed in on him a little bit. But I was still a little bit unclear as to the reasoning why he did what he did. But if it works, it works. So I was fine with that.
I also passed it. I thought it was a very good exam. He was very knowledgeable. I did like the fact that he does try and promote doing turns at an early stage, even if they're not perfect at juvenile, so I like that part of it. I liked, he was very clear on the double loop and the takeoff and when the launch was and positions and what corrections he would make and what problems, he was problem solving. I thought that was very good. Ethics and education was very strong, and the rules and standards were good. He knew what was in the program. And also for the boot and blade question, he had a specific boot and blade in mind for that level. And stroking was very good also.
Yeah, I agree with the both of you. I agree with the both of you as well. I thought it was an excellent test. I felt like, that he came prepared for the test, that he answered the questions. I liked, the various exercises for the stroking and incorporating power and incorporating lean. I thought, and they were enthusiastic and they moved around, and it's a physical job, and they demonstrated via positioning rather than just verbalization. I thought they were great tests. I agree. So should I go get the candidate?
Maxwell, congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
It was a wonderful test.
Wow, I'm honored.
Oh,
So
okay.
thank you.
Please,
Thank you so much. A great test.
Thank you.
Please have a seat, and then we're going to go around and just tell you what we thought about the test.
Very nice. I can't wait to.
And we'll start with Thomas.
Axel, I thought the exam was excellent. For this level, I thought that you were really clear. I thought you were really concise. For the most part, I thought your answers were extremely bulleted. My only concern, as we discussed, was in the spin department was your transition from the right foot to the left foot, but I think it might have been my interpretation of what you were saying and not really what you were saying. But
Okay.
I didn't quite understand the technique you were using and why, but I believe that you believe that it works, so I'm fine with it. I'm totally fine with it.
Thank you.
Excellent exam. And you have a lot of great analogies. And I
Oh,
think the
thank you.
analogies help the athletes a lot versus just telling them left side goes here, skating side goes here, free side does this. You know, I think the analogies are really, really important. So
Thank you,
congratulations.
thank you.
I agree, I passed it, it was way above. I really liked a lot of your explanations, and I particularly like the fact that you do move your kids ahead and teach them turns and footwork that maybe is a little beyond them at that point, but getting the skills down so that they can move forward and then add more body lean and more, you know,
Yes.
levels to it. That's great. I liked your double loop explanation. I thought it was very thorough, and you talked about problems and how to solve the problems, so I really liked that. And I liked your drawings. You did a really nice job with your drawings. The double loop was a nice drawing, but the steps and the clusters, and that was really good. And also your stroking exercises were very good on there also.
Thank you.
And I like that. I can take things home with me too. So,
Wow.
very nice.
I agree. I mean, the fun part of being an examiner is that when a candidate comes in and they're able to teach you something, and I felt that you taught me something today. And I don't need to go in detail with everything because everyone has said it, but I certainly hope that you continue through the ratings process because you are a fantastic candidate. Your athletes are very fortunate to have you, and I think you deliver very concise, technical information in a simple way, which is really, really good.
Wow, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That is the best compliment I think a coach can get.
We'll have these yellow sheets,
You need to also
Yes.
initial these.
yes,
Okay.
or sign
Oh,
them.
that's right.
And they're gonna be going in your pamphlet here. And I am going to give you you're getting a lot of yellow. Okay? And I'll sign this. So here are your test sheets, and then this is an exam valuation to tell you, that for you to fill out about the process, okay? And if you would take this to the hub where you checked in and turn that in, we would be very, very appreciative.
Well, thank you, panel. It's been an honor to take this test with
Oh.
you. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so I will sign this. May I have your papers, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you. You're welcome. We appreciate you getting started in the ratings process as examiners.
This is my first try, so I was.
Oh, you did a good job.
Camel, you were
I
great.
was a little nervous.
And it's a learning process on that end, So, all right, so we have all of our papers. Okay. And I will take this to the hub, okay, and then I need the booklets.
Just a little reminder, I think we're supposed to sign our test sheets. We were
Yes.
told that.
Oh, I'm
Yes,
glad that
right.
you
Thank
just
you.
said
All
that.
examiner training?
There's so much,
Make
so
sure.
yes, there's so much to remember.
Barb
Okay.
will not be happy if we don't have this.
Okay, and Hans, you need to sign yours as well. Okay. Okay, you need to sign that. And- All right, very good. Okay, and I have that. And I will take this to the hub. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have more exams?
Yes.
Yeah, we're on the next one.
Okay, good, great, thank you. All righty, I'll take this to the hub.
Hi, Barb.
Hey, Axel, how'd it go?
I passed.
All
I
right,
can't
give me
believe
a
it.
Way to go!
Oh, I'm so relieved.
I
I'm
know.
so relieved. But
Okay,
thank you so much.
Not a
Thank you.
problem. So did they give you the
Yes,
evaluation?
I have my evaluation form, so they said these I hold on to, but this I turn in.
Correct. And you're gonna put
Awesome.
that right down at the end, and you filled out your affidavit before?
Yep.
And you put it, okay,
I
so
put
right
that
down
as
there.
well, so just
Great
the-
job.
Thank you
Okay,
again
can't wait
for
to see you
everything.
at the next rating site.
Yes.
Senior?
On to senior.
All right, good job.
Thank you so much.